In this video, let's consider a feature called Control Plane Policing, or CoPP for short. And its purpose in life is to protect our router's processor. Let's say that a bad actor were trying to do a denial of service attack on the router's processor. Well, that traffic that they're flooding into the router is going to be processed by the router's control plane. And we're going to use a quality of service, as we talked about earlier in the course, to apply a policy to police, to rate limit that traffic. And we might want to give different rate limits to different types of traffic. Before we get into that configuration component, though, let's remind ourselves what's happening at the different planes of operation inside of a router. Down at the data plane, we're concerned with getting traffic in the ingress interface and as quickly as possible out of the egress interface. We might do that by consulting the forwarding information base if we're configured for Ceph. This is also where we might do some manipulation on our packets like encryption, performing network address translation, applying a quality of service marking, or maybe permitting or denying traffic based on an access control list. And the focus of control plane policing, of course, is the control plane. This is going to be receiving traffic coming into and destined for the router, such as a routing update. We want to make sure that our router's processor is available to exchange routing updates with its neighbors. We need to be able to respond to ARP queries for devices looking for the MAC address of their default gateway. And also here at the control plane, we're doing calculations for OSPF. We're running the Dijkstra algorithm here. We're doing things to populate that forwarding information base that's going to be used by the data plane. And finally, the management plane, that's the plane of operation that handles connections coming into the router to do administration. Maybe I do a secure shell connection into the router to do some basic configuration, or we're using RESTconf or NetConf. That's the type of thing that's handled by the management plane. But here in this video, our focus is on protecting that control plane from a flood of traffic that's not necessarily needed at the control plane. And the way we're going to rate limit that traffic is using a quality of service. And you might remember from earlier in the course, we talked about the three-step process for applying a quality of service. Number one, we created a class map. And a class map would classify traffic. It would maybe put scavenger traffic into one bucket. It might put voice over IP traffic into another bucket, and so on. And there was also a default class. It was the catch-all class called class-default. So if we did not classify traffic into one of our class maps, it would be classified by that class-default class map. And Cisco tells us that we should create no more than 11 of these class maps. And here in the context of control plane policing, we might have class maps that recognize things like ARP traffic. We might recognize routing protocol traffic that needs to get through. There are some types of traffic that we might want to give a higher rate limit to. And we might have another class map to classify scavenger traffic or best effort traffic, or maybe excessive ping traffic. We might want to rate limit that. And once we have these class maps defined, step two in this three-step process is to create a policy map and saying how we're going to treat each of those class maps. And with control plane policing, we'll be applying rate limits to those different class maps. And thirdly, we apply the policy map somewhere. We often apply a policy map using the service-policy command. We apply it to an interface. We could alternately apply a service policy to another service policy. We could nest them. But here with control plane policing, that policy map, it's going to get applied to the control plane itself. And in our next video, we're going to go through a demonstration where we will configure control plane policing. I'll see you there in that video in just a moment.